ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the School of Science. My name is Luke, and this is the post-match action for Everton vs West Ham. Everton won, West Ham won. Now, this was a pretty flat game, to be honest. Since Everton have come back from the warm-over training, we have been a bit flat. The Wolves game, that was a pretty flat one. Now, the only reason I didn't actually do a video on that one was more down to the fact that I went to that game. I was there. You actually see me in one of the videos, the Everton videos. So when Harrison had scored, when they were doing all the celebrating, you can see the fans in the background. You can actually see me and my mum celebrating that goal. That was actually a funny one to see. But yeah, that game, you could see that we were a bit flat. I mean, that was a game where we should have walked out of there with probably 2 to 3 goals. But I mean, in all honesty, the West Ham game is very similar right now. I think if we were to have a striker of a decent quality, a better striker than what we've got in the regards to Beto, I think we could have walked away with 3 goals there. A competent striker would have scored 3 goals there. And now, this isn't me throwing shade at Beto. He's a really good striker. However, it's all situational. I mean, in this game today, he had about 3 or 4 headers within the first half an hour alone. And he was getting, every single one was an improvement on the last. He was getting closer and closer to the target, forcing their keeper to make more and more, being more and more alert, to say the least, because at the very first time, one of them was wide. I think one was wide, one was high, one was deflected, if I'm not mistaken. And we were asking the questions. We were doing what we were meant to do. And it was great to see Alcaraz getting the start as well. Normally with Charlie Alcaraz, he's normally the super sub. Normally it's, what is it? It's normally, who is it normally on the left? Harrison on the left, Decore in the middle, and Lindstrom on the right. It's normally that, but today he switched up a little bit and put Carlos Alcaraz on the left, had Harrison on the right, and had Decore in the middle. My personal opinion, probably not the best choice. I would have said Decore on the bench, Alcaraz in the middle, Harrison left, Lindstrom right. Because case in point was more down to the fact in the second half, we did that. Alcaraz was in the middle, Harrison went onto the left, and Lindstrom plays on the right, and we were much better. Now, bear in mind, Harrison and Lindstrom, I do not think we should be keeping them at the end of the season. I do think at the end of their loan, we just say to them, thank you so much for doing what you've done. You have done great, but we're going to have to look in a different direction, so we're going to send you back to your respectful clubs. That being Leeds and Napoli, is it? We got him from Lindstrom? I think we got him from Napoli, was it? It was an Italian team, I'll say that much. So yeah, but in this game today, we did have our scares as well in the first half. Now, bear in mind, we were dominant in the first half. Most of the action was us. But I think it was in the first 15 minutes or 20 minutes. West Ham had a corner, come in, and Jacob Bryant and Jared Bowen went up both at the same time for the heads. Jacob Bryant had got the ball, but unfortunately had sent it goalwards, forcing Pickford to make a really good save. And from there, that little scare sort of kicked us into high gear, and we just carried on pushing and pushing and pushing. And I mean, if any of you guys have ever used SofaScore, you can actually see the action zones on SofaScore. So you can actually see the first half, it was mostly Everton. And then at the very beginning of the second half, about half of the second half, up until probably say about the 76th minute, it was all West Ham. It was like 90% West Ham in that second half, and it was very evident. But yeah, so by the end of the first half, I mean, we did have our moments. We just kept pushing at them and pushing and pushing. We tried to get all the answers possible out of them, and we were doing well. I do think if we were to have, let's say for argument's sake, a Lukaku style striker, we would have been about 2-0 up by the end of the first half. Now, bear in mind, there was a moment there. I know inside the stadium would have been very different from what you saw on the TV. So, in the very end of the first half, around the 44th minute, so Beto goes down in the box. Now, bear in mind, great pass comes in. Beto gets the ball, but he has 3 defenders around him trying to get the ball off him. And he's basically ducking, weaving and diving, doing everything he can to try and get a little ounce of space so he can finish. He finds a space, goes to go and kick the ball, but unfortunately takes the floor with him as he's going to kick the ball, goes down, Referee points to the spot and VAR intervene and say, look, needs to check that again. That is a clear and obvious error. Now, this is the best thing about it. It's Everton now, isn't it? The one time VAR does its job in the proper sense, it's against Everton. That's always the case with Everton. We're on the shitty end of the stick when it comes to corruption, but we're also on the shitty end of the stick when things are going properly. It's just Everton, that, isn't it? So yeah, end of the first half, 0-0. We should have been 2-0 up, in my personal opinion. We were the ones asking the questions. We were the ones pushing for it. But obviously, with the lack of quality in the final thirds, that was going to be our downfall. And then in the second half, Graham Potter, he did actually get them geared up a fair bit. He got his lads going. They were pushing at us and pushing. In the second half, they dialed it up a notch. We'd taken it back a notch. Now, as I've said, I think I've said this in one of the previous videos, the warm weather training, I'm not sure whether it's a style change or whether it's something over there that we've done to try and change things around a little bit. But we've taken a step backwards, in my personal opinion. Now, I don't think this is not a terrible thing, but it's not a great thing. I do think, as I said, before we went to this warm weather training, we were raw, we were attacking, we were going for it. We were the rabid dogs of war. Now, when we've come back, it looks like we've been neutered a little bit. This might just be a transitional period where we're sort of adapting to a new style of play and we're trying to understand it better under Moyes, because don't forget, we've been playing under Sean Dyche for 18 months, trying to get his style of play under wraps, and that obviously it wasn't a great style of play. Now we're going into Moyes' style of play where it's tight football in the middle, where your wingers are false wingers, your wing backs have got a dual role, and on top of it all, your attacking style is quite literally tighten the football from the middle, going suddenly wide, back into the middle again. It is literally a diamond in transition to score, and it's a good style that he's adapted over the years. We've done it really well when he first came around. It was back in the day. It was back when we had the likes of Leighton Baines, Seamus Coleman, Phil Jagielka, Lescott, and we had the players pushing up the field, Leighton Baines and the PNR connection. That was where that diamond worked well. When we had Leon Osman operating as a false winger, he had Tim Cahill operating as a false winger at one point coming in. He did it well with the old style, and he's brought it back with the new lads, and they're playing a lot better than what they would under Dyche, because if this was Dyche playing right now, that would have been a 2-0 loss. It wouldn't have been a 1-0 draw, that would have been a 2-0 loss, and I would have willingly put money on that. But yeah, so after they'd scored, David Moyes, pardon me, David Moyes, you could see the writing on the door, and he needed to get the fresh legs on. So what he did is he brought Corey off and brought Lindstrom on around the 68th minute, and that did help a bit, because as I said, that pretty much our top of the midfield basically had a complete switch around. So Alcaraz going from the left comes into the middle, Harrison goes onto the left, and Lindstrom plays on the right. So you got O'Brien feeding to Lindstrom, and Lindstrom coming back to help O'Brien. And from there, started asking more questions, getting more of a push into it. And it's evident, I mean, even on the sofa score right here, I've got right here, you can see it from that. It's basically from there up until the very end of the game, it was Everton, Everton, Everton. We were pushing more, we were attacking more. The likes of Branthwaite was pushing up further, Mikalenko was pushing up further. O'Brien was operating with Tarkowski, and then he would go occasionally into the middle. Idrissa Gueye was all over that pitch, but to be fair, that's Idrissa Gueye for you. He's been our linchpin and my personal player of the season so far this year. He has been an absolutely phenomenal player, and it's going to be sad when he goes, honestly, because he's one of those sorts of players. Wait, am I saying... Sorry, I mean, it's Idrissa Gueye. Idrissa Gueye has been an absolutely amazing player so far this season, and it is going to be sad when he goes, because we've missed having a player like him since we had him on the first time round. I don't know why I said Lindstrom. Did I say Lindstrom? I'm having a moment here. I'm having a senior moment here at 32. But yeah, so we were asking questions, and then at the 79th minute, we made a triple change. So we brought Jack Harrison off and got Youssef Chermiti on. Now, this is mostly down to the fact that he knew, even though he'd switched up that midfield and they were knocking at the door and they were asking the questions, it still wasn't enough to get that end result. So Chermiti comes on for Harrison. What was it? Tim Abuna comes on for James Garner, and Armando Broja comes on for Beto. Now, bear in mind, two of those players, that was their first minute in a couple of months. I mean, Armando Broja, I think he's been injured since the FA Cup game against Peterborough. I had to think about that for a second. Even though that was only in January, I had to think about that. It feels like that was ages ago. That honestly feels like that was years ago. It's madness, absolute bloody madness. So, and Chermiti, another one. The last time he played was against Sligo Rovers, if I'm not mistaken. It might even be further back. I don't remember him playing. I do remember him playing against Sligo because him and Harrison were the best players on the pitch by a long shot. But yeah, so Broja was basically operating behind Chermiti in a way. He was basically your second striker. Chermiti was the point man on that one. And Burnham was basically the clean-up crew. He was basically coming to the number 8 role. So you had Alcaraz feeding to Broja to feed into Chermiti. And from there, that all clicked into place. Everything was going great. And then a cross from Mikolenko comes through across the box. Drissage manages to pick it up. And from there, puts it in. And a nice close-range header from O'Brien puts it in. So we were 1-0 from there. And even at that point, we looked like we could have got the win at the very, very end, because another ball comes through, and it was literally one of the last kicks of the game. A ball comes through, goes through the legs of the West Ham player. Alcaraz picks it up, and if he would have had half a yard more space, it would have went in. I promise you that much. But he basically got swarmed by players, and that moment where he hit it, it was just because he had a little less time than he should have had. Just that littlest bit more time, that littlest bit more space, it would have went in. And it would have been the latest of 2-1 wins that we've ever had. But unfortunately, sort of scuffs the ball through a little bit of a panic. And it goes just wide of the post, literally about yay far from the post. And then at the end of that was the end of that. At the end of the game, it was, like I said, it was a bit of a flat game. Referee, a lot of fans are saying that he has a bit of a nightmare. I'll be honest, he had an average English referee sort of game. He could have done a lot better. But in all fairness, that's always the case. They're always under constant scrutiny. And they're so worried to make mistakes that they end up making mistakes. Their safest option is to not give something and face the repercussions versus giving them something that they shouldn't give and face those repercussions. So they're just too scared to really rattle at anyone's cage, but they're always going to rattle someone's cage. They're always going to make a wrong move. They're always going to make a wrong decision. And it's mostly down to the fact that football's become so vague and abstract. What is a tackle and what isn't a tackle? What is a foul and what isn't a foul? It's become so grey these days. I mean, the offside rule on its own is so perplexing. I mean, it's got to be. So for a striker, someone to score, they've got to have a goalkeeper and a defender ahead of their opposition's last man who is interfering with play. And that is as the ball is getting played through to that person. So there was a situation a couple of games back where Pickford had come out. The opposition had beat him, passed it through, and he had scored. And there was our defender was on the line, but because that player was ahead of Pickford, but behind the defender, it was considered offside. I want you to think about how mind fuckingly complex it all is. The rules of football nowadays are so strange and they're so grey. It is literally, it's no longer black and white. It's literally a trillion layers of grey when it comes to rules nowadays. It has become that confusing that it is inevitable for a referee to make about a dozen mistakes per game. And I'm not saying that through hyperbole either. That's most likely what's happening. Every single referee in the Premier League alone is making anywhere between 10 to 20 mistakes a game. And don't get me wrong, I do think they need to sort of revamp the rule set. There needs to be a bit more of a black and white layer now for what is what and what isn't what. I mean, the first thing says, I do think they need to introduce the semi-automated VAR or, well, offsides, because it's 1,000 times better than what we've got right now. The 10 minutes, anywhere between 5 to 10 minutes to check an offside, all because his shoelace was over the line, is just ridiculous. I don't think we need to be doing that anymore, in my personal opinion. I do think we need to wind that. We need to put an end to that. And the VAR needs to be just for clear and obvious errors on the pitch. The offside rule needs to be done by the machine. We need to sacrifice ourselves to that. We need to surrender to that machine and let that be the authority when it comes to offsides or not, because it knows it better. On top of that, I mean, you've got in cricket nowadays, you've got the heat map. So when a ball is hit in there, they can see where that ball has been hit or when it's been hit. They've also, behind wickets, now bear in mind, this is cricket I'm talking about here. It's a sport where you've not got anywhere between 30 to 70,000 fans screaming, chanting and everything, obstructing noise. So they can hear when a ball hits the wood, or, well, the wicket, should I say. So they can hear that sort of stuff. I mean, the semi-automated system, they've got that in tennis at the moment to see whether something's out or not. So for us to have that in football would be critical, especially in the Premier League, because that will take out a lot of the time wasting done by officials. It's not intentional time wasting, but because they're so scared to make a mistake, they double, triple, quadruple, quintuple check something. And it's getting to the point now where anytime we score, you can't celebrate as of yet. You're sort of holding back. I mean, there's been times where I've been at the game and a goal's gone in, and I'm sort of standing there and I'm thinking, do we celebrate? Do we celebrate? I've got everyone celebrating around me, but I'm thinking, do I celebrate yet? And I'm looking at the officials, I'm looking down there, I'm looking over at the other linesman, I'm looking at the referee, and I'm waiting for that bloody purple and white VAR thing to flash across the screen. I don't want to see it. It's the thing I hate the most. But yeah. But overall, it was a pretty mediocre game from both ends. It was a mid-table clash, in my personal opinion. Everton and West Ham are sitting at the wrong ends of the table for what we're doing at the moment. Under Potter and Moyes, we should be higher up in the table, in all honesty. But that's it. When you go in and you've got someone else's tools at the helm, it's going to take time for you to, adjust and make it right. It's like when you go into a house, it's someone else's stuff. It's been someone else's house, and it's going to take you time to make it your own. So I think come the summer, if David Moyes is given the blank checkbook and he says, right, sign the players you need to sign. I don't care who it is, how much, or what you've got to do to get them. Just sign them. And I mean, we've got a new stadium there. I mean, we've literally got the new stadium as that bargaining chip. Sorry, I'm pointing at Goodison Park here. We've got the new stadium as that bargaining chip. Basically, one of the things you say to the players is, we're going to give you a good wage. You're going to come to a team that's got a lot of ambitions. And on top of that, you're going to come into a new stadium. You're going to basically be one of the marks in history. You're going to be one of them people who was one of the first players in that new stadium. And that is an alluring thing. It's basically, they can basically put themselves in the history books as one of the first players in that new stadium, But anyway, guys, I'd like to thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate you guys listening to me ramble on for probably about 20 minutes. But yeah, also, just a very quick one. If you do want to support the channel, I am actually introducing a new thing. So I have had this on the channel for a while. It is called the Cup of Coffee tier. Now, bear in mind, this is only £1 a month. There isn't anything in major perks or benefits. Basically, if you support the channel, you're basically paying out £1 a month. You're gonna get yourself on the channel in the way of a name, basically on the end screen or before the end screen, where I am right now. I might even put it here. We have it so that you are on here. Your name will be on the sidebar or something. Well, I did in the past. We're going to do something like that. And you get a nice little badge across your name and you're helping support the channel. Bear in mind, my channel's got 3,210 as of right now. People subscribe to the channel. If only 1/10 of you guys was to, put yourselves into it. 1/10 of the people. So you're talking 321 people were to support this channel. That's £321 a month going back into this channel. We will make massive improvements to the channel in that regard. So that can be things like things for the backdrop. It can be hardware improvements. It can be software improvements. It could be me buying new cameras for the channel so that, let's say, match days, I do things of what the likes of, some of the people who, do like match day experiences where they go into the ground, they have like the DJI Osmos and they can do recordings and stuff like that. I might even be able to do stuff like that. It can be a vast amount of things. Revenue for this channel is critical just to the fact that I can improve things. I can get better drones. I can get better materials. I can do other stuff. I could even potentially hire people to edit the channel a bit better. That's how I want to try and do it. I want to try and improve. And the only way we can do that is by increasing the revenue that comes into the channel. I know this sounds preachy and everything, but just think about it. £1 a month, literally one can of Coke a month to the channel can help so much. So I am being a bit beggy. I am asking in that regard. But if you would like to do that, I would so massively appreciate the support to the channel. It would mean so much to me if you guys were to just put £1 a month into the channel so we can do all these improvements. Because bear in mind, the hardware I'm operating with right now, the camera is a mobile phone. The microphone I'm operating with is a great microphone. I love this microphone, by the way, but it cost me £40. My computer that I do all the editing and uploading on, that's 12 years old now. Bear in mind, it's a really good computer and I've made it myself, so I can do the hardware improvements myself on that thing. But we're talking 12 years old now. It's also at the point now where it can only operate on Windows 10. We have not got the TPM firmware, well, the TPM in the BIOS to upgrade it to Windows 11. So being able to upgrade that and keep this going on for as long as possible would be so massively appreciated. But yeah, even if you can't support the channel in that sort of way, just simply watching the videos, liking it, commenting on it, doing stuff like that, that's always massively appreciated as well. But I have rambled on long enough. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week. Hope you guys have a great St. Patrick's Day. And I know Jake O'Brien, he did that for the love of St. Patrick himself. But yeah, as I said, have a great Paddy's Day. Don't get too drunk. Remember, drink responsibly, celebrate responsibly. And remember, electrolytes are your best friend when it comes to hangovers. But anyway, guys, I'd like to thank you all very much for watching. Have a great week. Peace.